Hey you guys, it's Peter and welcome to my channel, Peter's Movie Reviews. And today I want to talk about the movie, The Long Walk. So I've been wanting to see this movie for quite some time. My husband and I went to the movie theater to see something a couple weeks ago and the trailer for The Long Walk came up and I was like, oh, I really want to see this. I was really excited to see it. We never made it to the movie theater to see it. And so this weekend I saw that it came out on pay-per-view. I asked my husband, I said, do you want to watch The Long Walk with me or do you want me to watch it alone? He was like, no, I don't think I really want to watch that. So I was like, okay. So late at night this weekend, I paid my $20 to rent the movie. I was so excited to watch it. Now going into this, I just want to say, I have read I'm a huge avid reader. I have a BookTube channel where I review and I react to books. I have several book clubs that I have started and participate in. I have read very few Stephen King books, and I have not read The Long Walk by Stephen King, which I believe came out in 1979. So I haven't read the book. So all I know about this is just watching the movie. I had seen a trailer and then I watched the movie. So I didn't read a lot of articles about it. I really knew nothing about this movie before going into it. So I was really excited to watch this movie. Now, it is considered a thriller horror movie. I don't know that I would consider it necessarily a horror movie. Definitely a thriller. But it felt more to me, more of just like a very serious drama, honestly. And I think that it was to some degree speaking of where we are in society today, even though the movie is like a dystopian version of like the late 70s, I believe, maybe the late 70s, early 80s. It kind of feels like an alternate version of the United States and the dystopian version of like the 70s. It's kind of how it feels. I didn't really know when the movie was supposed to take place. I mean, it could be today and it's just kind of like everything stopped. You know, it's after some war that has occurred. And the United States is in great financial distress. That's what you know. And so what the movie is about is that 50 young men walk every year in what is called I think it's every year, in what is called the Long Walk. And at the very end, there is one walker that remains. And that person is granted unmeasurable wealth and one wish is what they're given. And I know it sounds kind of fantasy driven, but it didn't feel that way at all. So there is like a representative from each state. They are supposedly like on a lottery system. So it's random pick who gets picked. As you watch the movie though, that doesn't necessarily seem to be the case, that it was necessarily a lottery. As you watch the show, as you watch the movie, and I will get to this in a second because I am going to do some spoilers at the end of this. People have asked me to include spoilers in the movie and non-spoilers in the movie. So I will tell you when I'm going to start including, or when I'm going to get to the spoiler part of the movie. But anyway, as you watch the movie, you realize that there are maybe some reasons why certain people are on the walk this year, that they were like handpicked to be on the walk. So the movie is about these 50 young men that are picked to be in this long walk. And basically what it is that they walk until they no longer can walk. So it's 50, I think they end up walking like something like 300 or 400 miles. So they end up just walking and like different things happen. They are given, if they walk under a pace of, I think it's like 3.3 miles per hour, they have these watches that they wear. If they walk under that pace, then they are given a warning. If they get a third warning, they are given a ticket, okay? And I didn't know what a ticket was going into this movie, so I had no idea. So they're given a ticket and then they're taken out of the race. So when I watched this movie, I was really excited about it. It's an hour and 58 minutes. I thought it was fantastically done. This is my non-spoiler part of it. One of the things I was really excited about was when I started watching it, the main character, I was like, this guy, he plays the character, hold on a second. He plays the character of Garrity in the movie. And I was like, there's two main characters in the movie that are kind of like become really good friends. The movie is really about the relationships that these young men build on this walk and kind of why they're there and their background stories of what got them there. There is an element of this movie that feels to me, and like Stand By Me, which came out when I was like growing up in junior high school, starring River Phoenix, and Corey Feldman and the rest of the four group. Anyway, this feels a little bit to me like a grown-up Stand By Me to some degree. There's elements of Stand By Me, which I know was written by Stephen King as well, which there's elements of this that feel a little bit like Stand By Me. Like when I was watching this, if I had, and I love the movie Stand By Me, I had watched both of them and you didn't tell me that they were both made by the same person or written by the same person, I would maybe even guess that, because it just felt very familiar to me. It felt like the nuances and the communication, the dialogue felt very similar to me about this. When I was watching it, the main character looked so familiar to me, and I just loved the main character that played Garrity. He was fantastic in it. I was like, how do I know this guy? So I looked him up, because when I'm watching movies, I'm like, Google searching all these people. And it's Dustin Hoffman. It's Cooper Hoffman. And I was like, how do I know? Is that like Dustin Hoffman's like son or grandson? Like, how do I know this person? And I was like, he looks so familiar to me. And I looked him up, and he's Philip Seymour Hoffman's son, who I absolutely loved. Philip Seymour Hoffman was one of my favorite actors ever. And I absolutely loved Philip Seymour Hoffman. And so I was like, oh my God, like, he's like, and he's done a lot of movies. I think he was, for Licorice Pizza, he was nominated for like an Academy Award or something like that. I think I've never seen that movie. I should watch that movie. But then I got even more excited about it, because I was like, oh my God, this is so fantastic. This movie is really well done. I mean, so they walk until they no longer can walk anymore. So it's these 50 young men, and they're basically just walking on this interstate down the middle of nowhere. And as they're walking, there's like military troops that are following them to make sure that they're like doing what they need to be doing and things like that. It is a really hard watch. It is really painful to watch. Emotionally, it's really painful. I wouldn't say it's extremely gory. I think that might be a little bit why it's considered horror. I would consider it more like a violent, I wouldn't even consider it like a thriller necessarily. I would consider it more of like a drama, like a violent drama, because there is violence in it. It is gory. It is definitely not for kids. I think it's a really important movie to watch. I think it says a lot about being your own person, being true to your heart, what makes you tick, things like that. So I would highly recommend this movie. I absolutely loved it. I don't know if it's gotten any discussion, or if it was, I don't know when it came out originally, if it's getting any Oscar nods, but I thought the acting in it was just superb. I thought it was fantastic. Okay, so let me get to my spoiler part of the video now. Okay, so if you haven't watched the movie and you're going to watch it, I would highly recommend this to anybody. I thought it was really well done. Okay, so my spoiler part of the video where I'm spoiling it is, this is what I didn't want to say at the beginning of it, was, so when they're walking, they give 3 tickets out, and they give 3 warnings out, and then they get a ticket. When I started watching it, and I don't know, like, I couldn't tell on the movie, or in the movie, if the boys knew that the tickets, they must have, because the whole thing is aired live on television. But I did not know that a ticket meant that they were shot and killed. Like, if they could not make it over 3.3 miles per hour, and they slowed down, or they stopped, or they took a poop in the street, which a lot of them did. That part was kind of gross. Anyway, but I did not realize at first when they said a ticket that they were shot in the head. That was a complete surprise to me. I thought the movie was just unbelievably fantastically done. I loved it. I thought it was almost kind of shot in this like off sepia tone a little bit, that I thought that the coloring of the movie and the filming was done beautifully. I thought the editing was fantastic. I thought that the characterization of each of the characters, and I haven't read the book, I almost did before I watched the movie, but I haven't read the book, and so I don't know, the characterization of each of the characters, like some of them will live with me forever. I love that you find out that Garrity's father was somebody that like stood up to the regime, and then like his father was like shot and killed for like wanting to expose his son to the old ways and educate him, and then his son was walking in his father's feet, so to speak, for his father, and so you find out, that what he wants to do, his one wish is that he wants a gun from the major, who's the one leading this whole thing, and that he wants the gun to basically, like, in front of all these people, like, shoot the major at the end. That's his one wish. I knew watching this. I've watched enough Stephen King movies. I haven't read a lot of Stephen King books, like I said, but I've watched almost every Stephen King movie, made-for-TV series. I've watched almost every Stephen King thing out there, even Storm of the Century. I watched it last year, which I loved. But I've watched almost every Stephen King movie, enough to know that I knew Garrity wasn't going to win it, and he and his best friend were going to walk off into paradise together. The one question I do have, and it doesn't really matter to the movie, but his friend Pete that he walked with the whole time, did anybody get, there's a part in it, it didn't matter, but I thought it was interesting to the context of the show, or to the movie. There was a part when Garrity asked Pete if he has a girlfriend, and he says no, and he kind of cuts it down real quick. Were we supposed to insinuate that Pete, his friend, Pete McVie, was gay in the movie? I was like, was I supposed to get that, alluded to that? And it doesn't really matter in the context of the movie. There was a lot of diversity in this movie, which I loved. I don't know if the book is similar to that. But I knew that the movie was not going to end with Garrity, the main character, winning the whole thing. I knew it. It was too good of a movie. It just couldn't end that. It just couldn't end that fairy tale-ish. So at the end of it, and I really, to be honest with you, I didn't really fully understand the ending. I don't think you have to understand it. Like, I'm not confused about the ending because he just kind of walks off and everybody fades out of the side. So I think he was probably killed in the end. It's kind of how I imagined it. But what happens is it comes down to the very end of Garrity and Pete, who have walked side by side through the entire walk. They're at the very, very end. And it's all these people that are like rooting them on, who's going to be the final one. And whoever makes it first, basically across this line, I guess, then the one that's behind him is the final kill. So Garrity is ahead of him. And Pete starts lagging behind. Garrity goes back and is like, no, come on, let's go. And he starts pushing him ahead. And because Pete was going to stay back, so Garrity won. So then he pushes him ahead. Well, Pete is so out of it at that point and asleep that he keeps on walking. He doesn't realize that Garrity stays back. Garrity gets 3 warnings. He gets shot in the head. So it was fantastically done. And then, because Pete has this whole conversation with Garrity about, he says he wants the gun. He's going to ask for the combine or something, some kind of gun, I don't know. And then he's going to shoot the major. And he says, that's not going to go down the way that you want him to. And they have this whole conversation about vengeance. There's so many conversations that are so important in this movie. They have this whole conversation about the power of vengeance versus just living in freedom. I loved that conversation in the movie. And he says to him, he goes, the power of vengeance will basically rule you. And so Pete's like, that's not what you want to do. Like, if that's what happens. But because at the end, his friend is killed. He's like, in his idea, he wants to say, my one wish is that we can both win, which is never going to happen. So when Pete wins and Garrity has already been killed, he asks for the gun. The major says, give him your gun, and then he shoots the major. Then he turns around and walks off. They don't show what happens after that, but he doesn't walk away and just get all these riches. So Pete probably dies in the end too. It's very much like a Thelma and Louise kind of ending. You don't really know what happened. I mean, I think people will probably be questioning it. I don't know. Let me know what you thought happened in the end of it. I thought when he turns around and walks off, you don't see, it's just like, you just see him walking down this empty street. So I'm sure he got shot right after that and died. I thought the movie was fantastic. I thought the message of the movie was just absolutely beautiful about living your independence, living your freedom. To me, it gave me, thoughts of Viktor Frankl writing of, you can't take away what I think in my head, no matter how much you try to control who I am. I loved this movie. I thought it was fantastically done. I would highly recommend it to anybody. You can watch it and you don't have to go deep with it, but it is also a very deep movie. If you've watched it, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.